Hey guys, I found something to put my RCA 222 on top of. It's this gigantic cabinet down here. I got a tip about a set on Craigslist, which I debated long and hard about going to check out because it's big, it's heavy. I wasn't even sure it fit in my car, let alone be able to get it up the stairs and into my place or through the doorway. And then where am I going to put it? Still haven't figured all that out, but I did get it back here in one piece. So what is it? Well, it is a GE802 combination AM radio, FM radio, TV, and record player from 1947. I'll show you the chassis in a minute. I broke this down so I could get it home. I guess these are fairly uncommon. It's got channel 1 like some of the very early sets do, which is cool. The cabinet's in a little bit of rough shape. There's some finish loss here and there and a few dings, so I imagine I'll end up refinishing it. My only concern about that is that it's got kind of this cool patina where it's lighter in the center and darker around the edges. I don't know if that's how they originally made it or if that's just from age and wear of people holding this or touching the panels, and that's the way the finish darkened. But the top's in pretty bad shape. There's some veneer loss, so I may end up re-veneering the top. So I'll definitely refinish the whole thing. They say online that it was mahogany. I don't know. Maybe the wood is mahogany, but this doesn't look really like mahogany to me. Almost more like oak or walnut. So we'll see what finish color I end up using. Here's the knobs for it. They're actually wooden knobs, which is kind of quaint. I thought wooden knobs went out in the late 20s, early 30s, but here we go. And as usual, I'm missing some of the knobs, 3 of them to be specific. I believe all 3 of them are identical to this guy. And since it is wood, I suppose if I can't find any, they could be carved out of a billet of wood or something like that. Or I guess a billet would be from metal, huh? It'd be a dowel or something. And then there's a brass insert and a set screw. Let's see, here's the back side. So TV sits up top. And then here's the record player, and down below is the rather large speaker. And here's the original label. Alright, now onto the chassis. Okay, here's the chassis, and here's the picture tube. I broke this set down into the cabinet, the chassis, and the picture tube for transportation. I'm really glad I did, because when I took the chassis and I found the picture tube was just flopping around. This strap is supposed to hold it down, and it must have loosened up over the years, and this thing very well this tube may very well have slipped out and broken on the way back. Speaking of breaking this tube, I brought a buddy with me to help carry all this stuff, and he doesn't know a whole lot about TVs. So when we got back, I grabbed the chassis and started going up the flight of stairs to my place, and I wasn't paying much attention to him. Well, being the helpful guy that he is, he grabbed the picture tube, but he just grabbed it with one hand around the neck and was just kind of swinging it around behind me and walking up the stairs. I didn't notice till we got up into my place. I turned around and saw him. I was just horrified. Yelled at him to grab the tube with the other hand, because these are very, very heavy at the bottom. And the worst thing in the world to do is to hold it by this, because this will just snap right off. The tube will implode, glass will go flying, and all sorts of mayhem will ensue. So anyways, since I got this up here, I cleaned off the tube quite a bit. I also cleaned this up. This dial face came out really nice. It's in really good condition. Chassis is more or less in good condition, I think. I don't see any critical components missing. And visually, the flyback, the yoke, the power transformer, and all that looks good. But the one glaring thing is that a lot of the tubes are gone. And some of these tubes are a bit oddball. So it might be a little bit tricky to track some down. Bunch of 6AC7s and 6S blah blah tubes that I don't think I have on hand, but I'm sure on eBay, or I'll ask around with other collectors and I'm sure I can track them down. Well, one thing that's a little ominous is on top of the chassis, written in pencil, it says return chassis. I'm not sure what that means. But then again, this wasn't a set in somebody's home, so I have to assume it was functioning at some point. So let's flip this over and take a look underneath. Oh, this thing is massively heavy. The power transformer is the largest I think I've ever encountered. Probably because this is, well, not only a very early set from '47, but it's also a FM radio and record player. So here's the beast. This is by far the most complex thing I've ever worked on. There's so many coils, all these trimmer capacitors. I really hope I don't have to adjust anything. I'm going to be very, very careful when I replace any components, like say these capacitors down in the tuner, to not bump or alter any of the existing coils or capacitors, because even just moving them a little bit can alter the inductance and the capacitance for the higher frequency coils. Oh, and I'll keep my fingers crossed that all the transformers and such are good. But visually, you know, I don't see anything that's like burst open or melted or anything. The previous owner said that the AM radio portion had been working, and up until fairly recently. Both good and bad. Bad that he's been running this, but good in that it seems to be more or less functional. Just, well, certainly a whole lot of capacitors to replace for sure, but quite a few resistors too. I don't think any work's been done really, except for the power connector. That looks like a pretty modern three-pronged power adapter on there. I'll have to ask around and see if I can find somebody else who's got one to see what theirs looks like, to see if that's original or not. Now as for the picture tube, I have actually already tested it, and it at first measured barely anything. I let it sit for a while at elevated filament voltages, which can sometimes revive tubes, and it really didn't help much. So I tried using the rejuvenate feature on my Sencor CR70 for the first time, and at first it looked really good. The emissions shot right up to right in the middle of the green good zone. So I let it sit for about another half hour, and it started dropping and dropping, and until it was just barely in the green, and the life test was really, really poor. So I tried using the auto restore feature, which is kind of a cool thing. You put it in that mode, you hold down a button, and you'll see a series of 3 kind of glow pulses in the neck of the tube as it sends various voltages and currents to try to revive the emissions. And that helped a bit, but again, after a while it gradually faded. So it's marginal at best. It probably will work for a while, enough that I can get the set running. But I think I will get this tube rebuilt while I can. There's an outfit called Hawkeye in Iowa that's shutting their doors at the end of the year. So if I want to get any tubes rebuilt, I got to get them in the next few months. The only thing I'm concerned about this tube is this neck looks weird. It's kind of pinched in here, which may mean that this has already been rebuilt. I've seen some rebuilt tubes once or twice before, and I've seen it where the pinch is up here. So I don't know if this is from the original manufacturing or if it's been rebuilt. My only concern about that is a rebuilt tube. Maybe you can't rebuild it a second time. I don't know. But since the tube doesn't have a whole lot of life left, I really don't have much to lose. So I might as well give it a shot. This is a really early tube too. It's definitely a GE and a 10 FP4, which is right for this set. But it seems pretty crude. I've got a newer 10 FP4, or a couple of them actually. And this one, the glass here kind of angle flares out towards the face, and the face itself has quite a few occlusions, bubbles in the glass, including one dead center. Maybe they're not too noticeable when the phosphor's glowing behind, but it definitely seems a lot cruder than other tubes I've seen. So that makes me think that it probably is a very early picture tube, probably the original from the set. Alright, I'm going to put this all back together and give you a look at what the set looks like when it's all in one piece.